Am I the asshole for shutting my sister out of my family's lives and declining her wedding invitation? Original post. 5 years ago, my niece Nikki and her friends ridiculed and harassed my son Mark. They speculated about his sexuality, called him slurs, and even used the N-word with a hard R, all for their entertainment. When Mark came home, he was crying, shaking, and yelling as he tried to tell me what happened. It was heartbreaking. I immediately approached my sister to address the issue. I explained Mark's side of the story and the state he was in, but she dismissed it, claiming her daughter and her friends would never act that way. She didn't even offer to talk to Nikki. This wasn't an isolated incident. A few months before, Nikki kicked Mark in the genitals in front of her friends as a joke. When I demanded an explanation and an apology, Nikki refused, started crying, and claimed it was unfair to hold her accountable, even as Mark was still in pain. Nikki also has a history of mean-spirited behavior, such as calling my younger son Corey, the name, instead of the name. Corey has asked me why she does this and shared how much it upsets him. In the case of Mark, my sister doubled down, claiming that one of Nikki's friends, the one who used the N-word, couldn't possibly be racist because she's Mexican. Her exact words were, "I don't know what you want me to do about this." That was the final straw for me. I told her that if she wasn't willing to address the issue, it was in my family's best interest to distance ourselves. 3 days later, she called me, said she spoke to Nikki, and told me we're good on my end. No details, no resolution, just that. When I followed up via email asking what was discussed and what actions would be taken, she never responded. To this day, no apology has been offered, not from my sister Nikki or the other kids involved. I informed my extended family about the situation and my decision to keep my kids away from my sister's family. While some were supportive, others, including my mother, have tried to undermine this boundary. One time, my mom secretly took my kids to spend time with my sister's family without my permission. When I only found out because my younger son mentioned it, I was furious and drove an hour to pick them up immediately, praying they weren't sick. Fast forward to today, I've received criticism for maintaining this boundary. My sister is now getting married and invited us to the wedding, but I declined. My mother even asked if she could take my kids to the wedding, and I flatly said no. There has been no effort from my sister to apologize or reconcile. The only time she reached out after the incident was to add me to a group chat asking if we could take her to a birthday party in Chicago. No mention of the harm she caused. I'm standing firm in my decision to protect my kids, but I've been labeled as overly harsh and unforgiving. Am I the asshole? Comments/OP. Replies before reading the update. Commenter, blocking them will allow you to protect yourself from further manipulation or guilt trips. OOPI blocked her and removed myself from chat groups 5 years ago. I only found out last week that she had asked my brother for my info so she could send me an invitation to her wedding. Commenter, you should apologize to your mom. I'm sorry you raised the asshole daughter who was well on her way to raise an asshole granddaughter. Was your sister the golden child growing up? OOP, let's see. I was 15, sleeping in my room when my mom woke me up after midnight, screaming and yelling about my sister not being home. She snuck out of the house to be with her boyfriend. My mom threw me out of her house that night and tossed all my clothes onto the lawn. I was punished for my sister's actions. Yes, my sister's the golden child. Commenter, since you've never gotten any apology, how can you be unforgiving? OP. I ask myself this question more often than necessary since I'm part of a big Catholic family. That word gets hurled in my direction all the time. Commenter. ESH. Your sister and niece acted atrociously, and you were right to cut them both out of your family's lives, but why did it take so long? Your son was physically assaulted, and yet, for months after, you thought he should still spend time with his cousin? Why? Better late than never, but you still shouldn't have been late when it came to protecting your child from a bully. Oh, OP. I did ask if he wanted to stay there. I never forced him to go. You're not wrong, though. And 5 years later, I still haven't forgiven myself for this. Now for the update. I'd like to start by reminding everyone that I am a mom. My time on Reddit is limited. I can pop in for a quick one-line response in the morning, but once my kids are awake, I'm fully in mom mode until they're asleep again. This is why my posts and updates tend to happen late at night. For those claiming this post is fake, think what you want. I'm not wasting my energy convincing you otherwise. My daily life is already exhausting, especially with the added family pressure I'm dealing with. To provide some context, this situation started 5 years ago. My relationship with my mother wasn't great to begin with. After she secretly took my kids to spend time with my sister, I distanced my family from her too. About a week later, my mom reached out to apologize and took steps towards reconciliation. A few months after that, I started allowing her back into our lives. But I set firm boundaries. For instance, she's not allowed to take my kids anywhere without me. For the next year, I avoided large family gatherings to steer clear of my sister. However, 3 years after the incident, we attended a funeral where my sister and her family were present. My youngest, who was only 2 at the time of the original events, didn't even remember them. Today, he's curious and might want to get to know them, but Mark has no interest. He'll smile politely in shared spaces, but that's it. Corey remembers hearing the annoying child, but doesn't realize it was directed at him. Over the years, we've had minimal interaction with my sister's family during shared events, mostly just nods of acknowledgement. Still, no apologies or meaningful attempts to reconcile have ever come from my sister. This year, the pressure from extended family has been relentless, with my brother being the most vocal. He insists I need to squash my feud because family events aren't the same. After last night, I realized getting everyone in a room to address this was impossible. So I sent a message in our family group chat. I made explain that while some may not fully grasp the impact of what happened, it was deeply hurtful and damaging to my family. I also asked them to focus on this special time for my sister while respecting my boundaries and leaving my family out of it. I made it clear that if anyone couldn't respect my boundaries, I would have no choice but to distance myself from them as well, no matter what. I managed to drop my kids off during this time, and it went well, I guess because I didn't feel I needed them to go with me. But whatever it was, it happened, and they've been grateful since I left on my own. So they did a story the same way that I have since I left my own school. This prompted some quick responses like, "I'm sorry if I ever made you feel that way," and "I wasn't trying to pressure you. It's been 5 years of uncomfortable moments, family jabs, and constant pressure for the sake of keeping the peace. It's been draining, but I want to sincerely thank this community for the advice and support you've given me over the last 24 hours. The renewed energy to stand firm in my decision meant more than I can express. Before signing off for the night, I'd like to mention that yes, I use AI to help structure my posts and trim unnecessary emotional content. Now, let's close out the show with a bye-bye from BS Weekly. Fact is, people pay us in so many areas of our lives to help them put their most important tasks on our list. Sorry, too. Am I the asshole for saying my husband is a good father? Original post. Throw away because my friends and family know my main goal. When he was in his early 20s, my husband got a girl pregnant. They were casual dating in college. They had a lot of mutual friends. He didn't want to be a dad and told her as much, but she was adamant about keeping the baby. He was supportive through the pregnancy, but was clear he didn't want to be involved. He wanted to renounce his rights, but ended up with an agreement where he still pays child support, but doesn't do visitation, nor has involvement in any parental decisions. Yet the girl is now 12. He hasn't met her, nor plans to ever do so. I met him 8 years ago. We've been married for almost 7 years. He told me about the whole having a bio child out there very early on. I was fine with it. It is sad that a child came to the world under those circumstances, but I don't think he was wrong for choosing not to be involved. We now have a 5-year-old son. My husband has always been wonderful to me. That's why I fell in love with him. He was great during the pregnancy and birth and has been doting on our son and me ever since. I think he's a wonderful dad and husband. The problem, 2 of his friends married their college girlfriends who were/are friends with his bio daughter's mother. On 3 occasions in conversations where I said, my husband is a wonderful father, one of them said something snarky and mean, like, yeah, to only one of his children. Over the weekend, we attended one of their kids' birthday parties. I was chatting to another mom about motherhood and said that it's easier when you have a good team player in your spouse. The home owner mom chimed in to say loudly, if only the mother of his other child had the same. Later, I confronted her in the kitchen. More and to be sure, filling out men's journey of self-discovery and accepting my own insecurities. That's what my next door neighbor is, having a gentleman pick her up. The host wife, who came over very quickly, said I was very tired of her and other friends' comments about my husband, that she didn't need to invite us to things or spend time with us if she didn't want to, but it was super disrespectful to be constantly insulting him as a father. She told me she initially liked me, but finds it distasteful and rude that I keep praising my husband as a good father when I'm well aware that he isn't. That she will always make sure to correct me because it's not okay that he got away with what he did, and he now gets to play happy family with me and our son. The conversation went south from then on, and of course we left. The other mom friend texted me yesterday to tell me she completely backs up what the other said, and that I'm horrible for marrying and having a kid with a deadbeat, and on top of it, to praise him as a good dad. I have no doubts of my feelings. My husband has been and is great with our son and with me. I guess I never thought how my words could be insensitive towards his bio daughter and her mother, whom I've never met. But am I the asshole for occasionally saying my husband is a good father when talking to people? Should I stop? Now for the comment before reading the update. So I spoke with Tim after I posted here. He decided to speak with his friend John about what his wife Jane was doing, and we will cut Jane off. After Tim spoke to John, we learned the truth. Turns out this wasn't about Tim or me at all. I can only say what John authorized me to share. Even when this is anonymous, he prefers not to go into details. While still in college, John and Jane also had an unplanned pregnancy, and he wanted an abortion, but she didn't. They were still discussing what to do when she had a miscarriage early stage. They never told anyone because she didn't want to, and John respected her wishes. My husband never knew about this and felt terrible for them while they moved on and eventually got married and had kids. It's obvious she isn't over it and harbors resentment towards him for his stance at the time. Since her son was born, it seems she has been occasionally unloading her feelings onto Tim because she feels this is how it would have gone for her if she didn't miscarry. This is what John said. I have not spoken to Jane, so I don't know her side. John confronted her after Tim spoke to him. They had a big fight because John did not like her actions and immediately saw what was the real reason behind them. He is staying in our guest house for almost 2 weeks now, but we hope they will work through it for the sake of their family. She hates us even more now, though, for hosting him, so we are not really sure how our friendship will fare if/when they reconcile. The most important part of the update, John contacted bio daughter's mom, Callie, after fighting with Jane. He told her everything and asked her to stop feeding Jane's irrational feelings because she was taking them out on us instead of him and causing problems for Tim. Allie ended up contacting me on social media. This was an absolute first. We have never interacted in any way before, and I did freak out about it when I saw her first message. She was wanting to speak to me mother to mother and clear things out, so I responded and we got to chatting. Tim was informed. She said she wanted me to know she didn't want anything more from Tim than what they had agreed on, that she never fed anything to Jane regarding him. They don't even talk that often, and she wanted no part of this mess, nor to be dragged into it. I told her that we had a feeling she wasn't involved in the situation and appreciated her telling me, but really, this had nothing to do with her, and I apologized that the drama disturbed her and her daughter. We got to chatting from there on, and she's a lovely person. She is married, and her husband, Sal, has been in their daughter's life since she was about 2. She calls him dad. They also have a younger daughter together. She knew about Time being married to me and about us having a son because apparently Jane shared those things with her, despite her telling her she had no interest in hearing about him. So I updated time of my chats with Callie all along. After some reflection and back and forths, we ended up having a video call, the 4 of us, Tim and I, Callie and Sal, just this past weekend. It was awkward at first, but we talked about Ellie mostly. We saw pictures of her, a beautiful girl. The gist of this is Sal and Callie had been wanting him to adopt Ellie officially, but they were honest about how their finances would suffer from losing the child support. Plus, the biggest obstacle was they didn't want Ellie to lose her college fund/trust fund from Tim because they would have a very hard time providing college funds for both their daughters in their current situation. And more without the child support. They're not poor or anything, but they just don't have the means for saving away that much. Long story short, after this call, it was decided that Tim will renounce paternity and Sal will adopt Ellie officially, but Ellie will keep her trust fund/college fund. It will be up to them to decide how and what to disclose to Ellie as for where the money comes from. But so far, she knows her bio father was doing his half of the financial responsibility. In other words, of course, so I don't think they'd lie to her about it. Yeah, fid. This will take some time to be finalized. We only just started, and we still need to consider if and when our children want to meet, which is a difficult topic to tackle, and we agreed to continue discussing it over time. But we are all happy. Tim says this is how it should have been all along, and Callie and Sal seem thrilled about finally being an official family. There was even a very nice moment when Sal told Tim, "You have a lovely family," and Tim replied, "Thanks. So do you." So thanks to Reddit. If I hadn't posted here, maybe none of this would be happening.